Letter number 2. Israeli Air Force Refuseniks. On September 24, 2003, 25 pilots and aircrew members submitted a public letter to the commander of the Israeli Air Force, declaring, "We are opposed to carrying out attack orders that are illegal and immoral, of the type the State of Israel has been conducting in the territories." Without being explicit, Israeli readers of the missive know the signers refer to what the Israeli Defense Force terms targeted assassinations, and the bombing of structures thought to contain individuals responsible for attacking Israelis. In both circumstances, deaths to untargeted persons have been a regular occurrence. Widespread reaction appeared in the press during the months following, but so far, no courts-martial against the signatories for insubordination nor allegations of disobeying orders. In a television interview, the commander of the Air Force displayed a forced equanimity. "This is not an earthquake in the Air Force, and it's important to keep this in perspective. We have the most humane and moral military there is. This is political refusal. I don't understand how one can refuse in advance to carry out an order that was not given yet. Political refusal is the mother of all dangers to this nation. Refusal should not be a part of our language." Why wouldn't the Israeli military move quickly to quash this open challenge? The answer closest to hand is that it cannot without risking the Nuremberg Law. That is, the legal principle that orders from above are no defense to the commission of war crimes. The concepts of purity of arms and black orders, that is, ones which must not be obeyed, have long been a part of Israeli military indoctrination. Dating even to the 1948 War of Independence, these ideas are essential to the mystique of an Israeli defense force vaunting nobility and selflessness. There is also the recollection of similar resistance in military ranks during Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon. A movement formed particularly among reservists, who are the backbone of the IDF, refusing to serve in units assigned to occupy southern Lebanon. They called themselves Yesh Gavul, meaning there's a limit, that is, to both Israel's borders and what morally can be expected of its soldiers. In that instance, court-martial charges did follow, but as the occupation dragged on, a kind of modus vivendi arose between refuseniks, as they came to be called, and the IDF. Standard 90-day sentences to a mild form of confinement were meted out for refusals, and little opprobrium eventually attached to those acting from conscience. In October of 2003, an IDF reservist received a sentence of 28 days confinement for refusing to serve at a roadblock near Ramallah, set up to prevent Palestinians from leaving their villages by automobile. Staff Sergeant Tom Mehager said that after serving at the roadblock for some time, he became convinced that it served no operational purpose, and that when asked, his commanders openly acknowledged it was for the sake of collective punishment. When he was sentenced, Mehager declared that he was joining the group Courage to Refuse, reservists who refuse all service in Palestinian-occupied territories. But it is most likely that the IDF simply does not wish to increase the controversy already surrounding its violent tactics in the occupied territories. The most renowned name on the letter, for instance, is that of Yiftah Spector, a reserve brigadier general who flew with the bombers in 1981 that destroyed the nuclear reactor in Iraq. Moreover, the reappearance of refuseniks inevitably reminds people of Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's role in the Lebanon invasion, where an Israeli commission of inquiry deemed him partially culpable in the slaughter of more than 800 Palestinians, mostly women and children, at the hands of Lebanese Christian phalangists in the camps of Sabra and Shatila. Although only 2 of the signers are pilots of attack helicopters, which swoop from the skies firing laser-guided rockets in the usual mode of assassination, there are reports of gray refusal, that is, pilots who will not take part in these killings and who quietly avoid objectionable assignments through private arrangements with squadron commanders. One of the most notorious of the attacks taking untargeted lives involved a 1-ton bomb dropped on a Gaza City building on July 23, 2002. The declared aim was to kill a Hamas man named Salah Shahada. But afterward, along with Shahada, the rubble contained 14 dead civilians, among them 7 Palestinian children. In reaction, more than 24 writers and intellectuals, drawn together by Yesh Gavul, filed a petition with the Israeli High Court of Justice asking for an investigation of the assassination. The Dean of Israeli Writers, S. Yitzhar, an Israel Prize laureate, and a man esteemed for his stories humanizing the antagonists of the 1948 war, gave a straightforward explanation of his support. Quote, "I agreed to add my name to the petition because it is just and because I am against the killing of civilians everywhere in the world, and certainly here. It is inconceivable for Israel's combat operations in the territories to be executed without law or justice. After all, Adolf Eichmann, about whose guilt there was absolutely no doubt, was placed on trial and given a lawyer to defend him. That is what should have been done with Shahada. Bring him to trial and let the court decide his fate. Instead, the State of Israel decided to assassinate him by means of an air attack, as a result of which a city quarter was destroyed, hundreds of civilians wounded, and more than 10 civilians were killed, including women and children. That is immoral and illegal behavior, and that is why we are demanding that the court ask the state to investigate. It is inconceivable to me for the state to kill people like flies without anyone being brought to account for it."